Good night, good evening, good morning. Whatever is good with you is good with me. Welcome to the Talk of Life Talk Show with Elma. I had to throw that one in to catch you off guard. But anyway, we're blessed to be here tonight. To my left, I have Linda.
Yeah!
I have Cynthia, my co-host. And I'll introduce our beautiful guest in a few minutes. Our scripture is Philippians 1:6. Being confident of this very thing, that he which has begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. I love that scripture. Our motivational saying is great opportunities often disguise themselves in small tasks. So tonight we have a big task. We're going to meet and talk to Elizabeth Savage, and she has a book called No Trespassing. And some of y'all probably think that's land, where you go across land and they put up all the signs saying no trespassing. No, this is Elizabeth Savage personal memoir and gift to survivors of domestic violence, as well as anyone who has experienced a traumatic loss in his or her life. Elizabeth met what she thought was the love of her life in high school. Never imagined that her dream boyfriend would be her living nightmare. But before we get started, my other co-host has joined us, and that's Kimberly. Okay, Elizabeth, it is such a blessing to have you on our show.
Thank you.
We're so elated that you was able to come and be a part of these beautiful women up here. And we just want you to feel comfortable. So if you're nervous, come on, y'all, shake it off. Shake, 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 shake it off. And we want to know more about your journey from darkness to light. As a matter of fact, we just heard a sermon on light, and it was awesome. So we want to know how your journey from darkness to light and why you named your book No Trespassing. What is so important, and what will we get out of this book tonight that we can share with our audience, okay? So at this time, we have with us, give it up for Elizabeth Savage.
Yeah!
Okay, Elizabeth, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get started with writing this book?
Well, it took me a long time to write my book because I had to open up wounds that you try to not relive it.
Right.
And so, but when I started to serve women that lived in shelters for because of domestic violence, I knew that I had to write the book so that I can help someone else overcome their hurt, their hate, their anger. So it's when I finally decided last year actually to write the book, and it actually published out in March of this year. So it took about 6-7 months to do. But I went through an abusive relationship with my first husband. I met him in high school. He was very abusive. Once he graduated from high school, we got married straight out of high school. He became very physically abusive. It started first with pushes. Then from there, it escalated to punches.
So this was your high school
Sweetheart.
that you've been going with from what grade to?
I met him, he was a sophomore and I was a freshman. And we started dating when I got to the high school. Our second semester of my freshman year, we started dating. He was a popular guy, football player, basketball player. You know,
So you felt good, huh?
Yeah, sophomore, you know, hey.
Yeah, you were a freshman, he's a sophomore.
Yeah,
And
all
what
the girls
position was he playing on the football team?
He was, gosh, it's been a minute. Let me see.
Been a minute, huh?
Yeah.
But anyway, he was on the football team
Yeah.
and well known.
Well known. The girls were crazy about him. And so when he approached me, and I was like, okay, I got
Your
it.
little head got all excited, didn't it?
Yeah. And at first it was, it was fine. But then if I would have known then the signs from the beginning, then I would have been like, okay, no, I need to step away. But I didn't know the signs because they started in high school.
Okay, so let me ask you this before you get started. You said, did it start what grade did it actually start that you started getting this abuse from him?
The abuse actually didn't start after. The verbal abuse started, well, he was a senior when the verbal abuse started,
Okay.
and I was a junior.
Okay.
But the controlling started, I was a sophomore, and he was a junior. He started to control my whereabouts, where I can do, who I can be with, who I cannot be with, where I can
Wow.
be. If I went to a party, he was there, but I'm like, okay. I just thought he was like, oh, he just wants to be,
You
around
thought
me. It's
he's
cute,
in love
yeah.
and all this,
But he
okay.
was literally watching everything I did.
Wow.
And it was a different kind of, when someone wants to be with you, you can feel that. But when you know someone's really watching you, it's
Eerie. It's more
yeah,
like
you're just
eerie.
like, this is just weird. But I ignored the signs because I didn't know that, that's
Those
what
were
it
the
was. Yeah.
signs.
So did he want you to go with him everywhere?
Yes.
Everywhere. And
Everywhere.
if you didn't take him, he would show up at different places.
Oh, yeah. That he started to say, well, why do you spend more time with your friends? And I'm
Oh,
like, well, I
gosh.
kind of even it out, but he was like, no, you spend more with them. So he made me feel guilty.
Okay.
So that I started spending more time with him, that I started losing my friends. My friends like, that's too much of control. I don't know if that's right. And I'm like, no, he just, that's my boyfriend. He just wants me to give him more time. And then it started to be where I was not sexually active.
All right.
So he started to say, well, if you're not with me, I'm gonna have to go outside a
See?
relationship. So
Okay.
he started cheating. So I felt like, okay, well, for me to keep him,
I got it.
yeah, I have to do.
So what grade was this?
I was a junior going into my senior year.
So you did good because you went from your freshman all the way up to junior with
Yeah.
being absent
Yeah,
and
but then I
didn't do it.
but then I started getting tired of him cheating because I was not doing what he needed.
So how did that cheating mentally affect you? Because you thinking that, hey, this is
It-
the love of my life.
It started to emotionally affect me.
Right.
Not mentally, but it was emotionally affecting me because I felt like, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I do need to be with him. Maybe I'm not as pretty as the other girls. Maybe I don't have it, like the other girls. Maybe, does he really love me? Does he really care? So I started questioning me instead of questioning him. But so it emotionally affected me.
So did
Okay.
your parents meet him or your family?
My dad met him. My father, we were going to a party that his mama had, and that was the first time my dad actually met him. And my dad didn't like him from the beginning.
Wow.
My father was never a prejudiced man. He was like, you never judge anybody by the skin of their color. I mean, of the color of their skin, but their character is very powerful. And
So what race was he?
he's black.
Okay, this is a black man.
And my father's Hispanic. In our culture, we like, you stick with your kind. But my father's like, no, he's human.
Like that.
Right.
He's
Okay.
human. It's nothing. I don't see no one by the color of their skin. But he said he's just not good for you. But I'm gonna let you date him. But it's just
Something about
something about him. I don't know what it is that is just not clicking with me. Yeah.
Do you think it was that he was an insecure person, or do you think he had a mental illness? Now that on the other side of things, of course you really know back then,
Right.
But on the other side of things, do you think that it was a mental illness he was dealing with, or do you think it was more so something else?
I think with him, it was more of, I didn't know that his parents were abusive to each other.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I
he
didn't know that
came
until
out of an
after.
abusive
Yes.
home.
So
Okay.
but then when I met them, they weren't like that. It was when they were younger that they were that way, and I don't know if it was more of you can't leave me, abandonment, maybe. So he wanted, like I said, he just wanted me there. It's like he had to see me, he had to talk to me. If I didn't allow him to pick me up from work, he was just like, oh, who's picking you up? And I'm like, my father is. But, to him, it's like he would literally show up to make sure my father picked me up.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And this was a black man doing this?
I mean,
Wow.
she is drop dead gorgeous.
What was that? What'd you say?
I said she is drop dead gorgeous.
She is. She really is.
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear
I
that.
said
She
she
is
is
drop
drop dead gorgeous.
I think he thought that he was
man.
that he was
She
the
is
Puff Daddy and
gorgeous.
she was J Lo. That's what
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
Because back then they
yeah,
were the hot
I
couple
mean, just
too.
look at her.
They was all
I
over
know.
TV, and
I
they
know
was a
she
hot.
was
He was
beautiful,
obsessed.
more beautiful then too, you know. So
He was obsessed.
yeah, that is obsession. And then this is at a younger age
Yeah.
though. So you all got married after high school? Or?
Yes,
Is
because
that the crossing over? Is that what you're talking about?
yes,
Crossing over?
the reason we got married, I did not want to get married. And my father begged me not to marry him.
Okay.
So my father, like I said, he felt something. He just didn't know what it was. And he said he's not going to make you happy. He's going to give you more unhappiness moments than he is going to give you happy moments. So my father told me, if you marry him, I will not walk you down the aisle.
Wow.
He goes, yeah, he said, I just can't give you to someone I just don't feel comfortable
Wow,
with.
what a day.
Let me ask you this: were your parents Christians or anything like that? At
My
the
parents were Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
Yeah,
Your
but
dad, he was
You knew
sensing
something.
So
knew
he know
something.
your father picked up his spirit.
yes.
Yes.
He was more in the spirit
Yeah.
part, looking at
He's
his
just like,
spirit.
it's just like something about him. I don't know what it is, but I just something about him.
All right,
He's
Dad.
like, so he
And
told.
that's really strange to hear that your parents were Jehovah's Witness, because I've always looked at Hispanics and
As
Mexicans as being
Catholics.
Catholics. That is really different.
Yeah, they were Jehovah's Witness.
So are you a Jehovah's Witness or
No,
are you a
ma'am,
Christian?
I'm Christian.
Okay, so
We
you,
go to by the way, we go to the same church.
well, you need to
Hallelujah.
speak up louder, Kimberly.
Hallelujah.
We attend the
Okay.
same church,
Okay.
Pastor
They
Evans,
might
Sarah
not can
Connor,
hear you.
Word of Truth Family
Oh
Church.
gosh, so we know you came
Yeah.
from Jehovah's Witness Christian. We're going to
Yes.
have you back on the show to talk
Yes.
about that if you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, because that's a good topic. You know,
Yeah.
we have a
How
couple
did
of
that
them in
work
our
out?
church.
Yes,
Yeah.
You know, but that really surprised me when you said that. Okay, so you okay, I'm looking in here, crossing over. You said my parents arrived in El Paso from Mexico in 1972. So they were born in the country, Mexico.
Right, in the country, Mexico.
And they were Jehovah's Witness over there?
Mm-hmm.
Get out of here. I'm learning a
I'm
lot
surprised
tonight.
by that, too.
I am really
My
surprised.
grandmother was a Jehovah's Witness, and of course her kids and my grandfather were all Jehovah's Witness. She's the one that actually started to go to the Kingdom Hall, and she pulled them all in and stuff.
Okay.
So my father was actually 19, and my mom was 17 when they decided to cross over in the river. She was actually pregnant with me, and they already had my oldest brother. My oldest brother was 9 months old, and she was about 7-8 months pregnant with me when they decided to, my father's like, I don't want my kids to be over here because it's not a life over here. It's
Okay.
hard to get a job, and I don't want them to struggle and be one of those
Right.
kids, asking
Right.
for money, because that's just not what I want. So there's a mountain that it's like a big hill that you can sit on. And when you look, there's a river that divides the United States from Mexico
Right.
that you can see. And my father stood there, he goes, there's opportunity on the other side of this river.
Right.
So my mom said, but I'm afraid. He's like, we have to take that, leap of faith and go.
That's
Right.
it.
Wow.
And so they did. They crossed over at midnight. That's what's the best time. But the scariest part is that when you cross over in the river, there you can't see what's in front of you until you
Okay.
already get there.
Right. Oh,
So in that river, they have like they call them like little whirlpool that pulls you down.
yes. I
So
heard
people
that.
did drown.
Right.
Yeah.
So my mom and my dad heard some people screaming for help, and they had to just keep going.
Wow.
And so my dad put my oldest brother, he was 9 months, on his shoulder, and he pulled my mom as they swam across the river, and my grandfather waited for them on the other side so that they can come. And so my father said, this is for our kids and our kids' kids.
Right. Wow.
And so they never looked back. They just said, this is the land of opportunity, and we're going to take it from here. So they crossed over at the age of 19 and 17, and
Wow.
they
Been here ever since,
Yeah.
huh? And so that's what your first chapter, I mean, when you said crossing over, that's what
Yes,
that's about.
crossing over.
How you got here with your parents and everything
That's
like that. So
beautiful.
are your parents still living there?
Yes, my mom was able to get her permission to stay here in the States. My father was deported. So he lives in Mexico right now. So we go and visit him. So she's able to travel back and forth. So he won't be left, So she'll go stay a couple of months with him, and then she'll come back because, you're not supposed to stay longer over there. So she stays as much as she can to give him the company. But he was deported and stuff. So yeah. But
How long ago was he deported?
he was deported 8 years ago.
8
8 years ago. So she's been going back and forth all that time.
Yeah, so we go.
Do you go over there
Oh
too?
yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's the crossing over. And then chapter 2 says, a star is born. Who is this star? What is this about?
Okay, so that's where it comes in.
Okay.
Like I said, I finally slept with my first husband, my boyfriend,
Okay.
and I got pregnant.
Wow, that's what happened when you do that.
That's what I said. What is this? So yeah, I got pregnant. He had already graduated. I was a senior.
Okay.
And so when I had Mercedes, that's who was born,
Okay.
he was like, well, we need to go ahead and get married. And that's where the marriage proposal came in.
Okay.
Because his mom was like, well, you already got married. You already ruined his life, so you might as well get married.
Oh
And
no, wait a minute. His
No,
mom
she
was saying
did.
that,
The mom
so
was
she
saying that.
blamed you for it.
yeah, she blamed me for it.
You know that's what they do. It's always the
Yeah.
woman's
No,
fault.
some of them do.
Wow.
Some of them do it. Come on,
So the
kids.
mother was saying it was. So did his mother like you at all?
I don't think she. I think she wanted more of him to go to college. She thought he could do better than me, I guess.
Okay.
So do you think she might have wanted him to marry a black woman?
Probably,
Yeah.
probably,
Mhm.
yeah. I guess because my parents were hardworking people, and I don't know. It's just I can say that she probably didn't like me at the beginning because where I came from.
Right.
But then, of course, when he seen that he wasn't gonna let go, she was like, okay, well, I guess I'll accept you as my granddaughter. I mean, my daughter-in-law. But and then you have a baby on the way and stuff. So she wanted us to have an abortion. But my father said, if you have an abortion, I will abandon you for life
Wow.
because it's not the child's fault.
That's right.
Right.
He goes,
That's
so
good.
if they don't want you to be with him, then we'll support you.
Right.
That's
Dad.
good.
know.
What a dad.
Yeah,
man.
we'll support you.
That's
And so,
Ultimatum.
so that's what, I wanted to go to the Air Force. And my father's like, if you still want to go to the Air Force, we'll keep her and you go to the Air Force. You do what you have to do and, we'll support you. But I ended up not going to the Air Force. I ended up staying because he said if I went to the Air Force, he was going to take her away from me. So
That's
it's
what
kind of
the
like,
husband said.
so it was kind of like, we weren't married yet.
Okay.
But then when we got married, we went ahead and got married. And like I said, my father did not walk me down the aisle.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
So who walked you down the aisle?
Nobody did.
So you walked down the aisle by yourself. What, did they attend the wedding at all?
My mother did, but my father didn't.
Then.
My
Okay,
father
so
said that he
did.
couldn't.
Okay, so what happened after you all got married?
I
When
clocked-
did the abuse start coming in more?
The verbal abuse was already there. I was
Okay.
either somebody's dummy, idiot, nobody wants me, I'm ugly, I've gained weight, I lost weight.
Really?
I became all this besides my name. And then the physical abuse started when I got pregnant with our second child,
Ooh.
Is
Marcella.
that chapter 3? I do, but I don't.
No, we still
Yeah.
on chapter 2, right?
You're in chapter.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah,
That's after the baby.
Yeah, after the baby was born.
Okay. So he was basically really killing your self-esteem when he
Yes.
was telling you that. Did he ever say you was ugly? And you said he said what now?
He said I was ugly, I was not worth it.
I
I was
wonder why
beneath him.
men do that. Why they always want to tell you what nobody else want?
I
But
think
they
it's more
want
of,
you though the whole time.
Yeah, they want you the whole time.
I think it's more of
Control.
thing.
control. And if they beat you down, then
You start feeling that.
yeah, and then you don't go nowhere.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, well, maybe nobody's going to want me with the child.
There you go, because he planted that seed
Yeah.
in your spirit, and you start accepting that. So you start letting yourself go. Okay.
I started believing that. I started believing
Okay.
like, no, it's going to want me. I might as well marry him.
Because don't
I'm
nobody
worth
else
it.
want you.
Yeah,
But he did.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's so ridiculous.
Okay, so the abuse started out with the second child.
Yes, I was 2 months pregnant with Marcella
Okay.
when he first pushed me because I caught him cheating. I forgot, we had a couple that we used to hang around with, and they separated, and I had forgotten Mercedes' swing. She liked her swing at night to put her to sleep.
Okay.
And so he went to go get it, and he was taking too long. So me and his sister went to go get it. And when we got to the apartment, there was loud music coming from the apartment, so they didn't hear us knock. So his sister tried to see if the door was open, which was unlocked. And when we opened it up, my husband was with another woman. And I didn't say anything because I guess I can say
Was she a black woman or no?
yeah, she was
Okay.
a black lady.
Okay.
I think I was because my self-esteem was already shattered.
Yes.
I felt, and then I was kind of like, should I say something? Should I not say something? And then I was pregnant, so I kind of, felt
Right.
like,
How many
well,
months were you pregnant?
2 months.
Okay, yeah, because you could have hurt the baby at
Yeah,
that time if
so
you had gotten in a fight or something.
When I walked out, he followed me, and it's when he pushed me for the first time. And from that day forward, it started to become a push harder and punches.
So he
and
pushed
punching.
you because you caught him in his wrongness.
He said if I was wrong for coming over there, and that's the reason why I saw what I wasn't supposed to see.
So you deserve
if I would have
that.
stayed, if I would have stayed at home, then I wouldn't have seen nothing. So it was my fault.
Wow.
So I was something like, how is that? But okay.
Oh, okay. So that's when it first started, from you seeing him being in that position. So he pushed you. So what happened when you got home? Did you think about all of this, or?
Yeah, I was shocked because I was, like I said, when he pushed me, he came from behind me. So I didn't see him coming. So I was crossing the street. So I landed, because I tried to protect my unborn baby. So I
Right.
landed with my hands forward. So all this scraped off.
Wow.
So it was bleeding. And then I hit my face on the concrete. So my mouth was bleeding. So I was like, what just happened?
So what does his sister do?
His sister was yelling at him. She was telling
Okay.
him that he was wrong for that. He was no longer her brother and stuff. So yeah, she started yelling at him.
So he probably got mad at her too then.
No, he actually didn't. He actually didn't.
He did.
Now, of course, at this point, you don't even think to press charges or anything because you're just like, was it an accident? Was it on purpose? Because you're just like kind of thrown
She's
off.
in shock.
You're in
Yeah.
shock.
Right.
And so, did you share this incident with anyone, and what was their reaction? Was their reaction to, oh, you need to make a report, you need to leave him now, any of that type of
I
stuff? Or you just
didn't.
left it to you?
I
kept it to
didn't,
yourself?
because he came right after me and he apologized. He's like, I'm sorry, I think I was just nervous that you caught me. I won't do it again. But then it started to become more. But then when he started to abuse me more, he would tell me, if your father says anything to me, it's your fault, whatever happens to your father.
So then he started
God.
threatening you with your father. So
Yeah.
he was really a bully.
Ooh,
he
he's
was
horrible.
really bullying
Yeah,
you.
so
Horrible man.
I didn't want my father to get hurt.
Right.
Or my father hurt him, and then my father ends up in prison,
Prison,
for
yeah.
hurting him or
Oh, you
whatever.
know your daddy would have taken
Yeah,
care of
so-
business
Right.
So he started abusing me from my neck down, where
Why
people
you
couldn't,
pregnant?
where people couldn't see.
so people couldn't see.
Wow.
Okay, well,
Lord
did
Jesus.
sister not go home and tell the parents what this man?
You know, I'm gonna say family, they always protect their.
No, bull.
Not always, I was just saying
Well,
they
not all
always, but-
family, but
Thank
no,
you.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, but that's the type of family that they were. That when his mom found out, she told me not to say anything because she was highly known in the community, in the church, and so it was
Oh,
kind of like
okay.
they were pushing
I've
it
seen
under the
families
rug,
like
like
that before.
So
don't
she
say it.
was a big person in the church,
Yeah.
and she didn't want nobody to know what's going on.
So she was like, okay, just don't say nothing. We'll deal with it, and okay, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. Just don't tell nobody, and type of thing. She never defended me, like She would say, well, what did you say? What did you do? And I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
what I
that gets
said.
to me.
That
Oh,
He didn't.
Yeah, that
Now that
pissed
part,
me
I
off.
do not agree. I don't agree with none of it. I'm
You
just
know.
saying I know how people are.
Yeah.
though.
so you was pregnant with the second baby.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened after you had the baby?
The abuse got worse, and my father started to question because we started to, in the book it says it how he started pulling me away from my family, and that's our family is very close. And for my father not to see me for weeks and months, it was not, something that I would do.
Acceptable.
Yeah, it was like
Right.
this doesn't work, and this is not going to happen. But the reason he kept me away because he was afraid that my father would start asking questions and I would say something. So when he would drop me off with my parents, he would time me and then he'll come back and get me. And it could be like an hour. And then he's like, okay, I'm coming to get you within an hour, so you only have an hour with your parents.
Get out
And so my father asked me one time,
God.
he said, you used to have a smile in your eyes, and now I don't see that. What's going on? And I was like, oh, just stress with the kid, with the baby.
So you
and
started
stuff.
making up excuses.
Yeah.
You started
yeah.
lying.
And mama goes, no, I
everything.
think something else has happened. I was like, no. I said, no, it's just stress, because he never had a job, so I was always the one working. And
Oh, so
that
he
was
was a
another reason he
stay-home
was-
husband.
no, I can't even call him that because he didn't take care of his kids. So
Okay, so he was just in the
a
house.
jerk.
So you taking care of him, and he's playing off too while you at work. And then did he have the food cooked when you got home, or your water? He didn't have anything. All he had was abuse when you got home. Well, what was he doing with the kids?
I had to find babysitters to watch my kids.
Okay, who
And he
has the
wasn't
car?
working.
But she wouldn't know who had the car.
He had the car.
So he dropped you off at
Really
work,
can be
and he was
controlling.
running around, and you knew all of this was going on.
Yeah,
But how do you escape it when a person is like
Threatening,
brainwashing you
yeah.
person?
And you
like,
were
every
younger
day?
then, right?
Yeah.
much
yeah, I
younger.
was
You in
younger, but
20s?
then I was more afraid to leave him because he would tell me, if you leave me, I'll find you.
Right.
And it won't be nothing nice. And then it would be worse than what you're getting now because you done made me mad.
So
leaving
how
me
big a
and
guy was
embarrassing.
this guy? Was he a husky guy or
No, he was
tall
actually,
guy?
he was tall. He's very tall. He's tall. He is strong.
Okay.
He's not husky like my husband now, but he is a strong, because he was, an athlete.
Okay.
So he had muscles.
Okay. So
Not
he
big
could
ones, but
really
he had-
hurt you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So you should have hired somebody.
No, look,
I was mad when I heard the story too.
but you
that I
know,
was ready to
listening
fight.
to your story, it brought back the memory. I don't know if you all seen the movie The Burning Bed.
I haven't seen
I have.
Okay, The Burning Bed was a woman that went through the same kind of abuse, and she couldn't take it. And she burnt him up in the bed. Then
Yes,
she
she
burned him
did.
up. She really got rid of
can see
him
that.
that way. And the abuse just
But
got
she
so
went on
much.
trial for murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. But I've been abused as well. And this, my fiance, he put a machete to my neck, and he told me it's gonna be. He said, "Well, if one of us gonna be living tonight, it's gonna be you or me."
No,
And I start. No, yes, he did.
Yeah, he
he
told me that,
started.
yeah.
And he started, and I started repeating the 23rd Psalms. And grace and God. He fell asleep on the couch, and I ran the hell up out of there.
And she didn't look
And
back.
I
did
didn't
you?
look back. No, because
Yeah.
I'm too pretty to be messed
where'd he
up.
get a machete from?
Girl, you'd be surprised.
Oh,
Don't just be lying around the house like. What?
no, he
What
would,
the
and
heck?
he believed in martial art, and he
Wow.
would get
Oh.
those swords.
Oh, he was just
those
gonna cut
real
you
ones,
up.
and he was
Oh,
just
that
gonna
would've been
dice
really
and
scary.
slice me.
you up.
Yeah.
But I had to get up out of there.
Yeah.
No, I had, and I worked for the sheriff department. I mean, I was working for JPS in the jail.
Mm.
So what you went through is really amazing. But you didn't try to punch him?
You didn't try to fight back?
I did towards the end of when I just finally just had it. Is when we already had our fourth child.
So basically, he was just keeping you
God.
pregnant.
Yeah.
It was like you had one, then you wait, then you done had 4
And
kids
she was
with
younger
this
too.
man.
You what in your 20s?
Yeah.
You have to think
So
when
he
you're
was-
younger, you're not thinking
Yeah.
like you are maybe now or
Right.
later
Yeah.
on.
But his-
You're thinking this is love, family.
Yeah.
You probably saw the commitment of your parents.
Yes, the
Because
commitment.
your
And that
dad
that really stuck
commendable.
with you was the
So,
commitment
yeah,
of your
your
parents.
Like my
Yeah.
mom committed to my husband, my dad,
Dad,
and my dad
yes.
committed to my mom. And that's what, my mom's like, you have to fight through your marriage. It's never going to be perfect. But if they would have known what was going on, they would have been
But
like.
you never told
never
them about the
them.
abuse.
Yeah, I never told them until towards the end when my dad got deported is when they started to find out things. And of course started to see the abuse because then when my dad got deported, he didn't care where the punches landed. So when my mom saw me, she saw me with black eyes. She saw me with swollen face. My brother saw me that my brother
Okay,
tried
so
to
what
fight
did your
him.
brother?
My brother tried to fight him. He tried to fight him, and I told him not to because he was gonna make it worse, where he was
Right.
gonna come after me or was gonna go after him.
Right.
Because he would say, if anybody ever comes to me, I'm going to hurt them, and it's gonna be your fault.
Everything was your fault.
And then, so that's the reason I never spoke out because I was afraid that he would hurt my family, and so I wanted to protect them, and so that's why I kept it
Right,
to
that's
myself.
normally what happens. They say in
So-
those classes.
What is Sin City about?
We, that was probably one of the good 4 months we were there. We moved to Las Vegas.
Okay.
My cousin had told me that there was better opportunities down there where she worked and everything. So we moved down there and actually, because he didn't know nobody, so he depended on me. He actually started working. So he worked in the mornings and I worked at night so we can have somebody to watch our daughters because we had Mercedes and Marcel at the time.
Okay.
He did really good, but then he got pulled over and he didn't let me, he had told me that he had transferred his parole to
Oh, he
Vegas.
was on paper.
He was on, he got in trouble, so he went to prison and he was put on paper, so he was on parole, but he didn't transfer it to Vegas, so when they pulled him over, they had a warrant for his arrest. So he was arrested
So
and
he
then,
had trouble after high school.
oh yeah, he got in trouble during high school, but then he got to serious trouble after high school, where he ended up in prison.
So how long was he in prison?
The first time he went to prison was about a year.
So you had a break from that.
Yes.
You enjoyed that.
Yeah,
didn't
I did.
you? You was probably saying, hallelujah.
I
He's
did.
in prison.
Because it was like the
Crazy.
peaceful.
Yes, you did.
It was just, yeah. It was very
so
peaceful.
He got out of prison. What happened?
We, of course, he came back home, and then it went back to the same. He probably was good for maybe a week and a half, and then, he hung out with his cousins and his brothers that did the same thing
So that's Home Sweet Home. That's
Wow.
chapter Home Sweet Home.
when I came back.
Came
So
back.
he went back to prison.
He went when he got locked up in. We were in Vegas. He was transferred back to Amarillo, Texas, and so I went ahead. My parents came and got me, so that I can be closer to them. My dad came and got me, and he's like, we need to have you closer to us so we can help you with the kids. And so we went back home. Is when I made it back home, and then he came out, and his brother had told him that he had his brother lived in San Bernardino, California. And so his brother's like, you need to come down here, it's better for you and stuff, get away from everybody. So we moved down there, but his brother was the same. He was abusive to his wife.
Okay.
And so it was like, whose turn is it this week, you or me? We would joke about it because it really was, either she was getting beat or I was getting beat.
And so y'all would laugh about it.
Yeah, I mean, not laugh, but be like, who's gonna be next? So, we moved to California, it got worse because I didn't have nobody there,
Around.
just his brother. And
So why were you doing all this moving?
he would move us
Oh, he would just pick y'all and
It
say,
was
we're
part
going
of
to
that isolation thing.
Yeah.
to keep you from your family.
by my family.
Wow.
That was purposeful.
So was his brother married to a Hispanic woman?
She was black.
She was black.
And he was abusing her too.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, so she didn't have any family?
She had a brother, and his brother ended up fighting his brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I have a question. Now you were a Jehovah's Witness during
Time,
this
right.
time.
Or were you?
I'm asking, like, what was your spirituality looking like? What was that looking like during some of this?
When I was with him, I pulled away from God.
Were you blaming God for all of
I
this?
wasn't blaming God for
Okay.
it, but it was like I was trying to survive.
What more can I do? Like, what more?
I was
can
trying to
survive?
survive,
Yeah.
so it was kind of like I was trying to survive that I really didn't focus on God because I was trying to
I
make
see
it
what
for that
you're saying.
second.
Yeah,
Right.
So it was like,
Your mind,
my mind was not like, oh, let me call on God. It was just more like, I need to survive this second, this right here. I need to survive today.
Yeah.
I need to make it for tomorrow because I need to be here for my girls and my son.
Right.
So I
Okay,
never
so-
really went to God,
Okay.
and I knew, because I had Bible studies at the age of 9.
Right,
Yeah.
because you Jehovah's Witness,
Yeah.
they off
Yeah.
into
Yeah, they
their
don't
word
play.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was knocking
Yeah.
door to door at the age of 10.
girl.
But
Yeah.
I just pulled, and then not that I was mad at him or questioning him. I was just trying to survive. I was in a survive environment. Yeah.
But let
mode.
me ask you a question. While you trying to survive, did you have plans in your head how to survive, like walking?
Getting out.
Yeah, we're
Like
trying to,
getting out.
that's Margie,
I mean,
right? That's Margie?
yes.
And then the next one is exit strategy.
Yes.
So let's do
So
chapter
Margie
6.
is your friend. You said Liz and I have been friends for nearly
25 years.
25 years. Okay, so
She saw the abuse. I
Okay.
met her at McDonald's. We were
Right.
shift managers at McDonald's. She saw the abuse. She saw everything he did. She would beg me, and I would tell her it's not as easy as I'll make it seem.
right,
You
'cause
know,
you're in the
I have to
position.
literally I have to make a plan. And when I move, I have to move in silence.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't just say like I'm leaving, okay, and then walk out the door.
No,
No,
you
that's
can't.
not gonna happen. There was times where he would even come to my job and try to fight me, and they would call the police on him. So
You should
they
have been doing
seen
some
it,
French fries with that grease, sister.
and so
You know.
the one time they hit me in the basement because he was trying to find me, and that's when I was trying to escape. Is when I knew if I leave, I have to leave my work, I have to leave this city.
Yes.
So I was making the plan on where can I go. So my family, I had some family in New Mexico. They're like, just come over here. I don't think you ever think that you would be down here. Just come over here. So when my family started to know like something's, like Liz needs some help. So
And that's the exit strategy.
yeah.
In chapter 7.
I have to, I was making like, how can I leave? So when the last time, it was December of 94, he had beat me. It's the day that I fought him back for the first time. And in my mind, I was like, what have you done?
You gonna die, girl. You hit him.
Yes, I was like, this is not gonna be good. because I
So how
fought
many
him.
kids did you have at that time?
4.
You had the 4.
I had
But let me
4.
ask you this before you, did the kids see this fighting? Oh, they saw you being,
So my oldest one,
Okay.
Mercedes and Marcella, because they understood it, they were in that age where they saw it.
Yeah.
My son kind of like didn't understand, like,
Yeah.
I know something's happening, but I don't know what is happening. So when he would walk in the house, the kids, like, it was sad, but as soon as he walked in the door, it's like,
Attention,
yeah, like,
like
can
what's
we
gonna
play?
happen.
Because he wouldn't, like, they're too loud, they're playing too loud, they're getting on my nerves. And so I would
Wow.
like take them to the room, like, okay, I'm playing here, but y'all gotta keep it low. So it kind of like, I started to create them to not speak up, you know what I mean? And I didn't like that, because then I started to think like, they're gonna grow up thinking they don't have a voice.
right.
And actually, my oldest one had a speech problem. She wasn't born with the speech problem, but because he had beat me up really bad, she was frightened.
Oh, so it scared
So it
her.
scared her to speak, so she didn't
Yes.
speak.
Uh-huh.
And so, because she was afraid. So yeah, every time he walked in, he was like, you gotta be quiet. Just watch TV. Don't move, because he's here. But then every time he would leave, they'd be like, they start playing, with,
So he wasn't really a father to them. He was just a sperm donor, like.
yeah.
He just had them and he just wanted you pregnant. Is that a reason to keep you there, or
The last baby, we were in California,
is that Angelica?
Angelica.
Okay.
She was conceived from rape. Which I didn't understand then, but now I understand now.
It was rape.
That even though you're married, when you say no, it's a no.
Right, right.
And when I told him he had beat me, I had just had our son, I had a C-section. And I had came from the hospital, and he had left for about a week and a half. I hadn't seen him. And he showed up, and he was drunk. And he beat me that day. He tried to kick me in my stomach.
And you just had the baby.
He tried to open up my C-section.
Oh,
He tried to kick
God.
me. So I did whatever I could to kind of, so my face was bleeding. I had blood all over my face. And that day is when I conceived Angelica. He raped me. And he laughed and said, who's going to believe you that I raped you and you're my wife, you're my property? And I believed it, like, he's telling the truth.
But you had just had the baby. You hadn't even
So-
been home a week.
Yeah, so my son and my daughter were almost the same. Yeah.
Golly. Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness. So here come Angelica. So she's born on May 3rd, 1994. And this is your exit strategy. Okay. So now you're planning to leave him.
Yes. It's when, in 94, when he beat me, the last time he beat me, I had hit him back, and he grabbed me by my hair and threw me on the ground. He pinned my arms underneath his knee, and I knew then, I was like, oh, this is it. He's about to kill me. He started to punch me constantly. So in my mind, it's like, I have to go to work. So I turned to my face so he can just hit one side of my face so that I can go to work. That was my thoughts, I have to go to work. So of course I felt blood coming from my ear, my nose, my mouth. My face started getting swollen. I couldn't see from this eye. And all of a sudden I
Okay,
heard
where were you? Inside your house?
inside the house, and we were in our house, and he started to choke me.
Okay.
And then he's told me, I'm gonna kill you today.
And
so-
he doing this in front of the kids.
Yeah.
Because you see in the book, leave mommy alone.
Yeah, they were yelling.
Unfortunately, their screams weren't enough to make him stop.
Yeah, until finally, he was
48.
he started choking me, and then I started,
Yeah.
blackout, coming in and out, and I heard him scream. So I'm getting myself together, and I'm pulling away from him, and I'm cleaning my blood to try to see. And when I looked at him, he said, your blank and blank child bit me. And it was my 4-year-old that bit him from the back to try to get him off of me.
Right.
And he grabbed her by the hair and threw her across the room.
Oh.
It's when I said, it's time to leave.
Yeah.
So I waited until he grabbed some of his stuff and he walked out the door, and it's when I called Margie. And I said, don't ask questions. I'll be across the street behind that building. It was a YMCA across the street. I said, I'll be right behind it. Come get me. And it was cold because Amarillo gets real cold in the winter.
Right.
And I wrapped the kids with, jackets and blankets, and I put whatever I could in a little small bag, and I said, I'm out.
So you only made that decision after he did that to your
Oh,
child.
yeah. It just
So do you think you would have still stayed there if he hadn't hit the child or did that? You had made up your mind you was gonna go regardless.
Yeah, I stopped
But that
loving him
made it
years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I stopped loving him, but I just could not get away.
from him.
I did not love him. I just could not get away.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, every time I would leave, he would come find me, and then, because I was staying with Margie.
Mm-hmm.
And
He found you at Margie's?
yes, he found out where I was at, and he called, and he said, if you don't come home, I will burn that house down.
Okay, so is this when the house, did he
No,
burn the house down?
no, that's not, it was not her house. But he would tell me, I will burn her house
Okay.
down.
Oh, he was
So,
burning Margie's home down.
Oh, okay, so he was
Oh.
gonna get Margie, so did you get afraid again?
yeah, so that's when I left back home. That's when I went
Oh,
back
you
home.
went back home to
Yes,
him?
yes, because I was at Margie's, and
Uh-huh.
that's when he said, no,
And Margie didn't want you to leave?
no, she told me we will work this out, we'll call the police, what we have to do. But then when I finally left in 94 and she came and got me, her and her boyfriend at the time came and got me, that day I was like, I can't go back. It's when I called my mom and I said, I have to leave Amarillo. I don't know where I'm going, but I have to leave. And she said, well, let's move you to New Mexico. So that was the plan of me moving to New Mexico with one of my aunts. And it's when he got the kids in January 5th of 1995. And it's when I
What do you
drove.
mean he got the kids?
He got the kids. His mom called and said, she wanted to see the kids because she hadn't seen them for weeks.
Oh, okay.
And on January, the beginning of January, she came and got them. And Mom was like, well, Mom was like, you can't punish the mom. And so I asked her, have you seen him? Have you talked to him? She's like, no, I haven't seen him. I haven't talked to him. And when she came and picked him up from daycare, he got a hold of the kids. So he took them and he said, if you want to see the kids, you got to come home. And so I said, okay. And Mom goes, well, go, if you go home, don't go by yourself. Grab the kids, take the police. And when I called the police, they said, well, they're his kids as well as yours. And you got to take it to court.
Ask you that.
I hope
when you
things
called
got
him.
changed. I hope the legislation's
Okay,
getting
so-
changed with that.
Yeah, so once he got the kids, what happened with the
Well,
tragedy of the kids?
on January 5th.
Is that forever changed?
On January 5th, when I went to go, I was supposed to go back home so I can try to find a way to get the kids and leave.
Okay.
When I drove up, there was a house fire at his apartment, a duplex, because there was two duplexes on top and then one on the bottom, and we lived on the one on the bottom. When I drove up, it was when the fire was happening, and when I jumped out the car and I ran up the stairs, it's when he was coming out with two of the girls, which was Mercedes and Marcella. And I asked him, what happened? He said, I don't know. And so when I asked him where the other two, he said, I couldn't find them. And when I ran in there, I ran in there not knowing if there's fire. Did y'all turn off the fire? I was just trying to find my other two. And it's when the firefighter stopped me and he said, no, you can't be in here because the smoke was so heavy. You can't be in here. And so that's when I told him, I said, there was two other kids missing. So he starts to yell to other firefighters that two kids were still missing. And when I went outside is when they had already my son. So they had Mercedes, Marcella, and my son. And then, I don't know how long, but it seemed like everything was taking forever, but it was probably minutes. A police officer came and got me. He said, are you the mother of the children? And I told him yes. And so he took me around in an ambulance. And one of the firefighters had a yellow bag where they had put my 7-month.
Right.
And they told me she had passed away at the scene. So she passed away. She was burnt.
Take your time. Take your time.
Okay. And she was 7 months. Is that the only one you lost in the fire?
Yeah, she was 7 months. She was my complexion. But when he opened up he handed her to me. And I opened her up. Her face was melted. And she was the color of this. She was burned.
Yeah.
If I would have gone back, I wouldn't have opened up the
You
bag.
wouldn't looked at it. So
No.
she was the only one that passed away?
She passed away at the scene, and so they were putting other kids in the ambulance to take them to the hospital. And that was the first day it snowed.
Okay.
So of course it was taking them forever to take,
get
because of the snow. My 4-year-old passed away on the way to the hospital. The
From
same
the
day.
smoke?
Inhalation.
Revelation.
So they tried to revive her, and they just couldn't bring her back. And my son, they told me that he was actually better than Marcella, but his heart was damaged from the smoke inhalation because it was so thick.
It burned.
And so they needed to take him to another hospital, which was in Louisiana, was the closest one. They needed to take him there where they could treat his heart. And so on January the 7th, they were going to do just that. They were preparing him to take him. And so we decided, okay, who's going to go with him? Who's going to stay here? And he passed away from a heart attack on that day because it was still snowing. So the helicopter couldn't land. And when it finally landed, it was like 2 minutes late. He passed from a heart attack on that day.
So you lost
3,
3 children.
The same
And
the same week.
week.
Okay, so the baby that lived,
Yeah, she was actually in a coma. She was in a coma. Her heart and everything was not functioning on its own, so she was on life support. If they would have took any machine, she was dependent on everything. So the doctors kept saying, if she makes it, it's going to be a miracle. But your daughter is just, she's literally hanging from a thread. She's not going to make it. I mean, her sister, she kept going up and down. They did lose her one time. They got her back, and stuff. So she kept. She had a lot of holes in her lungs because of the smoke inhalation. It had busted her lungs. That the airway, all the air was going underneath her skin, so she was getting big. So they had to find a way to let that air flow outwards. So she had holes. She had machines literally from her neck all the way down to her ankles to let the air, and she had medicine and, the tubes and everything. So they said, you might want to wait for the funeral because she's probably going to pass. So a week went by. They're like, you're going to have to go ahead and have the funeral home was like, you're going to have to have the funeral because, she's still living and we can't hold the babies any longer. So we went ahead and had the funeral. We buried our 3 kids, and then I went back to the hospital right after the funeral.
was your husband at the funeral?
My
Ex-husband.
Ex-husband.
yes, he was there. He was there, and that's what my sister talks about in that chapter that you're on, about what happened, the things that happened at the funeral. I was kind of out of it. I remember some things, but I don't remember all. My sister remembers it all, so she wrote a chapter in the book about it, the things that happened, and but she was in a coma for like 3.5 months, and then one day the doctor's like, Miss, you're gonna have to make that decision. Make the decision to let her go, or to because if she does survive, she's gonna be a vegetable because she went without oxygen for so long that she's gonna be dependent on you for the rest of your life. She's never gonna have kids, so I'm like, well, if that's the way she stays, and that's the first time I ever brought God back into my life, then that's the way. If God leaves her this way, then that's the way I'll take her. But I'm keeping my child. So when they finally her father decided to, I don't want her to live this way. That's just, you're gonna put her in a lot of pain, and so he signed for her to be taken off of life support. And that day, I remember looking out the window and I asked God, if you're real, I need you.
all right.
And like
I heard her come back.
a few minutes later, she flatlined. And so they ran in there and they're trying to get me out of the room, the ICU room. And I'm like, no, I want to stay here with her. And in my mind, I was like, okay, if she leaves me, I'm taking my life. And it's when all of a sudden you heard her say, I want some water, I'm thirsty.
So she woke up out of the coma.
she-
So how is she
miracle.
doing now?
After 3 months?
She actually pulled the tube out of
I was like,
herself. And they didn't see it when she did it. The nurse was looking down, and so they thought, she flatlined. Oh my God, what's going on? So everybody's rushing. And then all of a sudden, it's just silence in the room. And she just opened her little eyes. She couldn't see, but she could see your shadow. And she said, I'm thirsty. I want some water.
Wow.
And so the nurse is like, just give her a little sip, because she'd been under for a while. And so, like I said, they say she was never going to walk. She was never going to see. She was never going to have kids. She's the opposite. She got 2 kids of her own.
So she's grown
Actually,
now.
those are her 2 kids over there.
Oh, get out of here! All right. So those are your grandbabies.
Yes.
So she has 2 beautiful children.
Yeah.
She's walking.
She's walking, she's talking, she sees, she does everything normal. The only thing she has is the marks from her neck down to her ankles, but that's her marks of a reminder that she's God's miracle.
Miracle.
So I know the time is gone, but tell us, where are you now? What are you?
Well, I wrote my book,
Right.
and the cover is actually taken in front of the house where I was last beaten, and the last time the kids were all alive together. They were all together. I have a nonprofit organization for domestic violence called Stand Together Against Nationwide Domestic Violence. It's located in Arlington, Texas. We've helped women, men, and children, but we really most focus on the youth, because I believe that if you start with the youth, you can stop the cycle.
Right.
So we got a program called Born with the Purpose, which is a mentor program where we go inside the shelters and we connect with the youth. And we connect with them, and after they leave the shelter, we still make sure that they, still getting the counseling that they need. Because I believe that we can stop the cycle if we start with them.
So, do you come to Fort Worth shelters? Do you visit all the shelters?
Yes, we actually have done some things with the Safe Haven here in Fort Worth.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we've helped some in Houston, Amarillo, Plainview, El Paso, and Lubbock.
Okay. And how old is your daughter? And where is your ex-husband?
She just had a birthday on the 14th of December. She turned 28. Yes.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. And what's your daughter's name?
Her name is Marcella.
Marcella.
Hi, Marcella. Maybe we can meet you one day
Yes.
too.
Yes.
So, where is your ex-husband?
He's here in the DFW. He followed me here.
Okay, but he doesn't. So you are married now?
Yes, I'm married. Actually, I met my husband now in Amarillo. We're all from Amarillo.
Okay.
I met him. Everybody knows everybody in Amarillo, so I knew of him, but I never really talked to him.
Yeah.
And so once I started getting myself back on my feet with Marcella, because it was just me and her now, and he started to come around as a friend,
Right.
and we became which is in a chapter in there. We became good friends, and then the next note, he's just asked me on a date, and I'm like, sure, I guess.
What's your husband's name?
His name is Dennis Savage.
Dennis. She's married to
Okay.
Dennis.
Yes, we've been
Now,
actually.
is Dennis black or?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so you
Right
stayed
now.
with the black race.
Yes. We've been married 19 years.
All right, congratulations.
Y'all just
Do
celebrate.
y'all have
Yeah.
any children together?
I couldn't have any more children.
Okay,
So
so.
it's just my daughter and then his son,
Praise God.
his son that he had from a previous marriage as well.
And they redid your vows?
Yes, I surprised him on our 19th anniversary with our renewing our vows. He didn't know nothing about it. I just like, what can I do different? So I was like, so all his family and friends actually were in it.
Oh.
And when we walked in the church, he was like, what is going on? So he did have a moment, but yeah.
So your daddy, he likes
Yes.
your husband? He
My
likes
dad?
this husband?
Oh, yes. As soon as, when he first met him, when we started dating, actually, my dad was in the federal prison because of it, they were deporting him, and he had crossed over again. And of course, he went to the federal prison.
Right.
He took me, my husband now, Dennis, took me to go see him. And when my dad met him, he said, now that is a man that I will let you marry.
See, now that's awesome.
Yeah, he goes,
That
that's a
is
man that I will
awesome.
let you marry.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
So,
Oh, Elizabeth, your story has been and you still look awesome.
thank
To
you.
go
Thank
through
you.
this.
Beautiful.
And to suffer your tragedy, we know there is a God. And you'll see them again, and thank God for Marcella, that's her
Yes.
name. And you all need to get her book,
And
No
then
Trespassing.
the name actually the title,
Yes,
when I went back home, God kept saying the house, the house.
the house.
So I was telling my ghostwriter, I was like, the house has to be somewhere. So she's like, let's make it in the book cover. When I got there, it had a sign that said no
I
trespassing.
noticed that. I noticed
And so
that.
when she said, that has to be like a subtitle or something, I said, no, it's the title. Because when you finally get your healing, you finally get your hope. When you see it,
Yes,
you like you said,
yes,
property, you can't
yes.
enter this. And
Yes.
you literally give it to God, and you try to turn around, he's like, whoa, You're trespassing. You've given it to me. You can't come back, but now
can't
you
come
gotta,
back.
now you gotta step into what I've called you to do, and that's your purpose. So that's where it comes, where the darkness, I'm leaving my past. I'm not forgetting my past,
But you,
and I'm stepping into my purpose.
amen.
Let me ask
Oh,
a question.
my.
Can I ask her a quick question?
Yes.
Did they ever decide what happened, why the fire and all that?
Yes, it was a blanket too close to the fireplace that caught on fire, and because,
Was it in your apartment or was it in the
no,
other
no,
apartment?
it was in the
Oh,
apartment.
the other apartment. Oh, okay.
They said that it was so close to the couch. That's where
Okay.
the baby was actually at, on the couch.
Okay, so it was in your apartment?
Yes.
The fire-
Oh,
caught
the
on-
fire started in your apartment.
It started,
Oh,
everything, so
okay.
it caught real fast.
Yeah.
So he didn't do it like he had been saying.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So you think that changed him, his behavior, and because he doesn't bother you now? That
Well, no, well, the reason why he don't bother me now is because my husband now told him.
kill him.
Yeah.
Good deal.
All right.
That's a
deal.
good man.
Good deal.
All right, Elizabeth, before we close, what advice could you give to the Facebook and YouTube audience about domestic violence? What words can you share to help someone else prevent staying in that situation?
If you're in that situation right now, you have to know your value. And you have to know that God did not create you to be less than.
Right.
You may say, well, he's going to change one day. They don't change. They don't. And if they do, it's not your job to make them change.
Exactly.
That's right.
Leave, and if he wants to change, let him do it first before, because one punch
good.
can actually kill you.
That's
Yes,
true.
it is.
It
That's
depends
true.
on where it lands.
That's right.
But God just didn't create us to be punching bags. He
Thank
did
you.
not. He did not.
Get out.
Get out, because before it's too late, like me. You know what I mean? Value yourself. Know your value. God created you with a purpose.
Right.
He's stripped you out of your self-esteem, but find it. Look at that woman in that mirror or that man in the mirror and know,
Yeah,
I am greater than this,
Yeah.
and I'm better than this.
right.
Love yourself. You have to
That's
know how to
good.
love yourself first, and then you'll know love. And punching and all
It's
that.
not love.
It's not love.
No, it's not.
It's
It's
not
not
love.
love.
Let them find the help first, and if it's meant to be, then you'll get back together. But let them do it on their own, and don't stay in that relationship.
At all. No matter how much they tell you they love you,
That's not
punching on
love.
you and beating you is not love.
No, it's not.
And where can we find your book?
Actually, you can find it on Amazon, and we just hit Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
And you can also find it on our website, elizabethsavage.org. But
How
Amazon,
much is it?
$17.99, but I think Amazon right now has it for $14.99. It's on sale.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we thank you, Elizabeth, and she has her as the CEO of the Stand Together Against Domestic Violence. You all that think that you may be going through this, you need to get this book, No Trespassing, and see if you're in this book, because punching and beating a woman is not love. And even calling a lady out of her name mentally can abuse you and make you feel like you are less worth. If you're in that kind of situation, get out. Don't stay there, because it becomes a part of you and you start thinking that and you become that person. So Elizabeth, we thank you.
Also, males,
Yeah.
they're abusive, because males they will not say a
Because of the
word.
ego.
They're
Yeah,
embarrassed.
that'll be a
Yes.
different topic. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that, but males
Yeah.
do get abused.
Yes, they
and
do.
they're ashamed to do that.
Then do y'all
Yes.
help both male
Yeah.
and or just okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it does says on the back of this, but we're dealing with the women tonight.
Right.
No trespassing, my journey from darkness to light. I want to close with this. If you feel like you're going through domestic violence, whether it's verbal, hitting, or whatever, it's still considered domestic violence.
Right.
Get out of it. Don't let them keep telling you that if they disrespect. This is with any woman. Don't let no man disrespect
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
That's the
cheating.
thing. Cheating and all of that. Stand up for your rights. You do not have to go through that, because you are created in God's image. You're wonderfully made, and you do not need him to what? Mess up your face. Go look at What Love Got to Do with It and see how Tina Turner on that movie whooped up Ike. But we laugh at it now. But this is a serious
Serious.
situation.
Really
Yes.
Don't ever let nobody tell you you're not worthy, don't nobody want you,
Right.
that you're ugly, call you those B and W words, walk out. Because I guarantee you, there is a man out there that will love you, that will respect you, right, Elizabeth? You
Yes.
have one, right?
Yes, yes.
And that love you and care for you. I don't care how many children you have, those men are out there. And he still was with you and everything. So Elizabeth is a good example. So go check out her book, No Trespassing, My Journey from Darkness to Light. You can find this on Amazon. And she says it's on sale for $14.99, you
Right.
think? $14.99, or you can get it from elizabethsavage.org.
Yes.
Okay? Thank you,
Barnes and Noble.
Elizabeth, for sharing your awesome story. And I'm
Yes.
glad that you made it out.
Yes.
And you still look beautiful, and
Thank
you have
you.
a
You
beautiful
do.
husband. May God bless you. We're about to close out every Monday, 7 o'clock p.m. for this year. We'll let you know 2020 is going to be an awesome year. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the Talk of Life talk show with Elma. One last sponsorship is the Kirk Booth. Rent your next event with the Kirk Booth, photo booth. Check us out at www.thekirkbooth.com, where the CEO is Emmanuel Kirkwood, who is the producer and director of the Talk of Life talk show. 214-210-8562. We're about to close out until we see you again. Talk of Life talk show with Elma, with our special guests Elizabeth Savage, Kimberly, Linda, and Cynthia. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Gosh, this is, oh my God, that is awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome.